warn you not to underestimate my power.
Hey guys, hello gorgeous. This is a follow-up to my top 5 most empowering transformations video. In that video I talked about instantaneous transformations where a character got superpowered, supercharged from one state to another in almost the blink of an eye or in a couple seconds. Unfortunately, real life isn't like that, and real change takes a few more days, weeks, months, maybe years than that. So I thought it would be fun to put together a top 5 list of characters who become empowered, but over a series of movies, not just one movie. And there's a definite progression of something not so strong, or you might say weak, to a very strong personality, someone chiseled out of granite, iron will, resolve, and all those warrior-like traits. As always, my lists are in no particular order, but I'll start with Luke Skywalker, who in Star Wars A New Hope starts off as the whiny farm boy who just wants to go pick up some power converters from Tashi Station, and he goes on a fun adventure with a new pirate that he meets, and he meets a princess and a wise old wizard, and it's really a roller coaster ride in the first movie. And he goes through some difficulties in the second movie which hone him. I've always said the hotter the forge, the stronger the sword, and the things that Luke Skywalker endures in the second movie, as well as the first one to some extent, but especially the second movie, create what he has transformed into by the third movie, Return of the Jedi. So we have a progression from the carefree, fun-loving farm boy into the stoic Jedi. The Zen-ish master, I don't know if he's completely there yet by the beginning of the movie, but by the end of the movie, he has that peacefulness about him, that Zen quality, which is very evident by the final scene where everyone is dancing and having fun, and Luke is just sort of detached. He's happy, but he can't really take part in the fun with them because all of that aspect about him, that adventure-seeking, that thrill-seeking, is not what motivates him anymore. He is a very level-headed guy, a very Zen guy. He is a Jedi, and I think that's one of the best progressions of a character I've ever seen from the beginning of the first Star Wars movie to the end of the third one. And it's very similar to number 2 on the list, Mr. Frodo Baggins, who begins as a carefree hobbit in Fellowship of the Ring. Yes, these aren't just 80s examples this time out. I'm going across all decades, but Frodo Baggins starts off as very carefree and fun-loving in the Fellowship of the Ring. He's excited about Gandalf visiting because fireworks! And then he embarks on this incredibly arduous journey. I don't think he knew what he was getting himself into, but you have to respect just the good heart, the tenacity of this fun-loving hobbit to go and do what no one else is willing to do or capable of doing. And through the Lord of the Rings trilogy, he goes through a lot, much like Luke Skywalker, in fact, much more so. And by the end of the third Lord of the Rings movie, he also has that stoicness about him, that Zen-ness about him, where everybody is drinking and having fun back in the Shire, but he's just kind of detached from it all. He's not able to sing and dance. He can smile about it, but he's just so level that there are no more super highs or super lows too. He's just very detached from it, and I think that's another really fantastic character arc if you want to talk about a character who begins as someone who isn't really prepared for all of life's challenges to somebody who can no longer ever be rattled again. Number 3 on the list is another one of my favorite movie characters ever. It is Officer Max Rockatansky, better known to the world as Mad Max. He begins as an idealistic cop at the beginning of the first movie, and there is quite a progression through even just that first movie, where he goes from that youthful cop to being smashed, to being Madman, progressing to what he eventually becomes by the end of Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. There is a little bit of regaining of his humanity throughout Thunderdome, the third movie with Mel Gibson I'm talking about, not including Fury Road in this, but Fury Road is very much true to the character in that he changes from this idealistic cop who is all about upholding the rules and the law of society to being a feral survivor who only has one rule left in life: survive. And while that might seem tragic to a lot of people, a fall from grace, a losing of one's mind, I've always found that very inspiring, that despite this guy losing everything he held dear, he lost his family, and then in the Road Warrior he loses his precious, gorgeous Interceptor, the black on black V8, but he just keeps trudging on. There is nothing you can do to stop this guy, and I would imagine that if he were to lose pieces of himself, much like Furiosa in Fury Road, he would just keep trudging on, because that is his only mission left in life, is to survive and get the gasoline. Number 4 started off as a hapless waitress, having bratty kids dumping ice cream in her apron, and she transformed over several years into one of the toughest machine-smashing legends that ever lived, talking about Sarah Connor from Terminator. At the beginning of that movie, she's got the 80s poof hair, she wants to go out and party, and through the events of the first movie, she becomes a little more aware as to what it takes to survive when Terminators from the future are trying to kill you. There is a time jump between the first movie and T2 Judgment Day, where it's left to our imagination what she actually does to progress from being the sweet Sarah Connor from the first movie, who's kind of been traumatized by the end of the movie, to this really crazy, carved out of stone, muscular, feral, Mad Max-like intense beast who is driven to survive and protect her son as well. While I like seeing the progression of a character through a series of movies like with Luke Skywalker, it's also cool to have a missing piece and leave that to the imagination and just see what has become of this character years down the road. And that character is hinted at even in the first movie when Kyle is talking about her in the past tense. And it's a frustrating scene for her because she's saying you're talking about things that happened a long time ago that haven't happened yet. But it's very cool to see a glimpse of the Sarah she would become in T2. She's got iron will, nerves of steel, you can't rattle her, and she's kind of turned into a Terminator herself in the second movie. She absolutely will not stop ever until her son is safe. So it's really cool to see someone who was so innocent and hapless turn into somebody so strong and capable, and not just about protecting herself and ensuring her own survival like Mad Max, but she's protecting her son. It's all for the betterment of somebody else. And also through John, it's not that she's just protecting her offspring, she's protecting all of humanity because she knows how important he is to all of humanity, that he is the one that will rise up and teach everybody how to smash these metal stinkers into junk. And number 5 on the list is another character who progresses a great deal from the end of the first movie to the beginning of the second movie, and there's kind of a missing movie in between there. The gap is filled in a little bit with flashbacks or mentions of what happened, but for the most part, it's left to our imagination. Talking about Kevin Flynn, who goes from the cool gamer dude from the first Tron movie to the Zen digital god in Tron Legacy. And this is an especially cool transformation to watch because in the first movie, he's really motivated by the material things in life, the things that don't really matter. Profit, money, recognition, adulation, getting his company back. And when you look at Kevin Flynn in the second movie, he's not about those things. He's not about anything. He's such a different character from many pop culture characters that you see. He's very Zen. He's a very Buddhism man. Very Lebowski, big Lebowski. The dude, the thing that drives most pop culture properties is good versus evil. The bad guys want to rule the world. The good guys want to stop them and fight for what's right. You got Kevin Flynn in Tron Legacy, who his whole modus operandi is do nothing. Remove yourself from that tired age old equation, that loop that never wants to end. Just step away. It drives the villain of the movie crazy, Clue, and he just can't stand that this guy won't play along. He won't fight him back. But it's refreshing just to see this guy who sits out of the game, not just for years, several years have passed between the first and second Tron movies, but the way the digital world works that Kevin Flynn is stuck in, he's actually been in there for many, many, many years. hundreds of years, thousands of years, eons, but he's been in there for so long that he's already thought about all of the regular things that people are motivated by over and over and over countless times. And I think his character represents an evolution of humanity, of what we could become if we're just given enough time. Now, unfortunately, our lifespans are too short for most of us to ever progress that far in, outside the box thinking, man. But it's interesting to see a guy who's been alive for hundreds, thousands of years, who knows, evolve into something that's not ego-driven. It makes me think of Star Trek, Gene Roddenberry's idea for humanity that we would eventually grow up and get over ourselves and start living for causes greater than our own desires, our own importance, our own need for attention, and those types of things. But I really enjoyed Kevin Flynn in Tron Legacy because he doesn't want to take part in that, but eventually when he does insert himself back into the game, he still retains that zenness about himself, that stoicness that I talked about in some of these other characters as well. So those are my top 5 gradual, empowering transformations from movies. If you've got a top 5 list of your own, feel free to share it down in the comment section. It doesn't have to be from a movie. It can be from a TV show or a comic book series, a character that starts not very capable of dealing with things and grows and progresses into someone who can deal with anything. And even though these characters are fictional and they come from fantasy worlds, they can be very inspiring and motivating to us as well to change and become stronger and more capable over months or years, or if you're lucky, eons. Thanks for watching. If you want to join the tribe, hit subscribe, and remember to hit that little bell right beside the subscribe to keep up to date on new uploads. Till next time, stay powerful. And if you're not powerful, get powerful over a period of time. And of course, Nerdness Day.